So this is the Subaru Solterra EV, and it's actually very similar to the Toyota BZ4X. Both cars sit on the same platform, and in fact, both Toyota and Subaru co-developed the platform. There's also a Lexus version as well, a bit more of a luxury vehicle if you want that. Now this Solterra is very much a Subaru at its heart. It can do all the same stuff as Subaru's combustion models, such as the Forester and the Outback, meaning it's got permanent four-wheel drive, it's got the X mode for off-road and hill descent control, and it's got a really good amount of ground clearance. I don't really feel that Subaru would have bothered on this partnership and bothered making the Solterra if it couldn't live up to the Subaru name and go off-road. The Solterra range in the UK starts from £52,505, and that's for the entry-level limited trim, which comes with quite a lot of equipment as standard. The one I've got behind me is the Touring model, and that's £55,505. And the exact car I have on test, due to the option extra of paint, is actually £56,550. What do you think about the pricing? Would you buy one? Let me know in the comments down below. Now the Solterra is an interesting looking car. The whole front end has a few unconventional design pieces, but it all does add up to quite a unique looking car. Now, one of the unconventional things is the grille section. Now, most electric cars have no grille at the front. No need for it at all. There's no engine to cool down. But because this one is quite a light colour and it is completely blanked off at the front, it is a complete bug magnet. So this is only after a few hours on the motorway, and you can see all the bugs that have attached themselves to the whole front end. We've also got some black edging around the side, and that reminds me of the Mustang Mach-E and the Puma Gen-E. So it looks like a black lipstick around the whole front end, and it breaks up the monolithic look that the Solterra could easily have, especially in this colour. Moving further down, we have got an air intake for cooling down the battery. We've also got a plastic silver piece as well. I've got some tow eyes on either side, front parking sensors, some fog lights on either side as well. And also, because the Solterra is an off-road car, we have got some front headlight washers too. And also, just behind the plastic cladding, there are some air pass-through ducts as well. So underneath the bonnet, and it is a fairly wide aperture and quite a wide opening, but the Solterra unfortunately does not have any underbonnet storage or any frunk of any kind. There's a lot of stuff going on under here, and as I said, it is quite a wide opening, but yeah, because the Solterra is four-wheel drive, there isn't much space for anything else. They might have been able to package it a little bit differently to get a frunk in place, but it is what it is, and that's pretty much your lot. Now, quite hilariously, we do have a Duracell battery on this one, as well as some coolant systems and a top-up for your screen wash as well. Now, when you look at the Solterra, you can tell that this is geared for off-roading. We've got a really decent amount of ground clearance, especially for a primarily road-focused mid-size SUV. And we've got a really decent amount of black plastic cladding, which adds a bit more ruggedness to the vehicle, gives it more of an off-road look. We've got black plastic cladding on the side here, all on the bottom section as well. And when you open the doors too, that whole section does cover a lot of the side section, which means that mud shouldn't get on your trousers that easily. Also some more plastic cladding on this section too. Now for alloys, this one being the top spec Touring model has 20-inch alloy wheels. The lower spec limited trim comes with 18-inch wheels as standards, and that's probably one of the main reasons why the Touring model has about 30 miles less range than the base model limited version. For colours, the Solterra comes in quite a few different options. We get midnight black, platinum white pearl mica, dark blue mica, precious metal, harbour mist grey pearl with black roof, that's what this one is here, and emotional red. I'm not sure what's emotional about red, but that is an option as well. The latter two, including this one, are available only on the Touring model. Now, before we go any further, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Interface Cars YouTube channel. There's lots of content coming on a regular basis, such as new car reviews, EV charging guides, and infotainment walkthroughs. Thank you. Now the Solterra has a pretty decent sized 71.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, all sitting on a 400 volt architecture. Now the charging socket is on the left hand side of the vehicle if you're looking at a bird's eye view of the car, and this means that you will find a bit of a problem on Tesla V3 chargers because it is in completely the wrong place, but all of the chargers should have no real problem, including the Tesla V4 versions as well. The door here is pretty large, a little bit plasticky feeling, but it is pretty solid nonetheless. We have got a CCS2 combo port with some nice trap doors instead of the rubber bungs that you find on some EVs, and this means there's just a little bit less stuff flapping around, which is quite good. And then AC, just the top port there, is up to 7 kilowatt, and that's a little bit slower than most of its rivals, but it is still pretty decent, and it should get you charged up in no time overnight at home and all, at any hotels or car parks and that sort of stuff. What's nice to see is that both versions of the Solterra come with a heat pump as standard, and then the base trim, the limited version, comes with 289 miles of range, and this one, being the Touring with the larger 20-inch alloy wheels, has 257 miles of range. Now, the first thing you might notice about the front interior of the Solterra is the slightly odd and slightly bizarre layout in here. It isn't fully mental, but it is just a little bit strange. So, for example, for the driver, I've got a pretty normal looking steering wheel, but the driver's information display is all the way up here, and it is fairly small. We have also got a lot of this plastic here, which almost serves no purpose. And the display just about clears the top of the steering wheel if you're looking here. If you do have a different position, you're going to block the display completely. It's very odd. It does all work fine, but it just is a bit of a strange layout. The other weird thing is the central bit here. This is all black plastic and piano black plastic actually. And on a really sunny day like today, you get the sun in the wrong direction, and this will just it'll be really bright and really distracting in your eyes. That was one of the very first things I noticed about this car when I got delivered this week, is that just this shiny black plastic section is just really odd. The other weird thing is the lack of a glove box. Now, we have got this almost floating cloth section for the entire dashboard. It does extend pretty much the entire whole interior, but there's this whole big section here which there's no glove box. It's really odd. So instead, what Subaru has done is they've put the glove box stuff in the middle section here. So we've got a massive manual, and all the various things that would live in your glove box live underneath this section here. It is a bit strange. Elsewhere in the interior, everything is pretty standard car stuff really. It's just those few little bits which seem a little bit strange. Now, getting back to the normal stuff, we have got a 12.3 inch infotainment screen, and it does support wired Android Auto only and wireless Apple CarPlay. Obviously, CarPlay can be used wired if you wanted to, but it's odd that it's only supporting wired of Android Auto and wireless of Apple CarPlay. There are two USB-C ports, so there's one USB-C port this side and one USB-C port the other side. One of those can be used for data pass-through if you wanted to. And we have also got a fairly impressive sound system in the Solterra. The base model gets 6 speakers, and because this one is the Touring model, that comes with the optional Harman Kardon sound system with 8 speakers, including a subwoofer in the boot as well. It is a fairly decent sounding sound system, nothing magical by any means, but it definitely sounds a lot better than most cars. But it's quite nice to have a nice sound system in your car as well. Also, for the seats, the base model gets fabric seats, and this one gets synthetic leather seats. They're not actually real, but they do feel fairly soft and supportive. And they should be fairly hard wearing considering this is a Subaru. Everything in here does feel slightly utilitarian. It's not van-like or pickup truck-like in here, so all the materials are fairly good quality. It just feels slightly utilitarian, but I've got the impression that this will probably last a very long time. We also do get heated front seats and a heated steering wheel as standard. And one very odd thing, which I discovered this week, is that the passenger seat, while it is electronically adjustable, the height is not adjustable at all. Really, really, really weird. So if you are, I don't know, a strange height or just too tall for the car, that might be a bit of a problem for you. So that is just one thing to bear in mind. Now, we have also got a really good amount of physical buttons. There aren't quite enough for my liking, but there is a really decent amount. So the climate control section is a nice blend between the two. It isn't touchscreen based, which is good, but it is haptic based. So you've got these buttons here, which have little green LEDs to turn on and off, and a beep to let you know it's been turned on. And then for the fan speed, we have got some little buttons here, and as well as the temperature too. Down here we've got loads of buttons for the drive modes, the traction control, the hill hold, the one pedal driving, because this does have proper one pedal driving, and also this gear shifter which you have to push down to engage, and that is all fairly decent. Now down here in the middle we have got this see-through plastic piece like a little trapdoor, and that is where your wireless phone charging pad lives, and there is also a USB-A port in there if you want to plug it in to charge instead of using the wireless phone charging pad. In the middle we've got 2 really decent sized cup holders, and they hold the largest of flasks, no problem at all. And then we have also got this fairly decent sliding bench armrest, which has a fairly chunky sound to it, and that is all fairly good. And then this does all lift up to have a bit of storage in there, and it is all cloth lined as well. Now also, because this one is the Tourer model, it does come with a really decent sized sunroof with an electronic blind, which helps lift the cabin because it is fairly dark in here, and on most days it doesn't let that much light in. Now lastly, for the steering wheel, we have got a fairly normal shaped one, thankfully. There is a new facelifted Solterra due in 2026 for the UK market, and that's got a weird square shaped steering wheel, but thankfully this one's got a nice round one. The paddles feel really cheap and quite clicky, and they're for the regen, but everything else feels fairly secure and fairly solid. These stalks feel really quite good quality as well. Thankfully, loads of physical buttons on here for your cruise control. We've got a proper adaptive cruise control on the Solterra, voice assistant, and all the other controls. One little tip I was going to share with you is that if you want to reset the trip, it's not done from the menu control on here. There is a separate button to reset the trip down here. Very tiny little button, and if you don't notice it, you won't notice it at all there. There is also a tiny little button to adjust the brightness on the displays, and that's a really, really handy feature. Now really, the Solterra is quite a big SUV. It might be the same size dimensionally as the Ford Capri, but inside it feels like we've got buckets of room. Because the Solterra is a bespoke EV, we do have a pretty much a flat floor in the middle, and I've got so much leg room. This driver's seat is set up for my driving position, and I've just got buckets and buckets of room and loads of space underneath the driver's seat for my feet. It's a really surprisingly spacious vehicle back here. We do also have some mat pockets on the back of these seats there, and they're fairly decent, and some decent sized storage in the door bins, big enough to hold most sized bottles by the look of things. And yeah, it's a really, really spacious cabin. Now in the middle, we do have a fairly decent sized armrest with two decent sized cup holders and a good size pocket for an iPad mini or a phone in there. There isn't a load through hatch, like a ski hatch or anything in the middle at all. In the middle section, this bit looks very pickup truck-y. It looks a little bit utilitarian, potentially. We have got 3-stage heated seats in the back, which is really good to see as well. 2 air vents and then 2 USB-C ports for charging devices. The back seats are really decent. They're really, really spacious. And if you open up the sunroof here, let's open that up. What we'll see now is that we've got a lot more light coming in, because it did feel a little bit dark with the sunroof closed. So now that's open, we've got a really good amount of light coming in, and it makes it feel a little bit more open. Around back, the Solterra has an interesting design. We have got this very sloped rear window, which is heavily tinted, but doesn't have any rear wiper, which is really strange on an off-road focused vehicle. We've got a nice big bit of plastic here with lights either side, and these lights do wrap around quite far, which adds a little bit of just sort of dynamicness to the rear design. We've got this Subaru badge here, and interestingly, I've not seen this on a vehicle for a very long time. We've got 2 reversing cameras, so one is angled down and one is angled away from you, essentially. So if you're off-roading, you can probably see the stuff below you. Now, talking about off-roading, we have got a really decent amount of plastic cladding here and a really good amount of ground clearance. There's nothing really underneath here at all to get scraped or damaged, and it is quite raked up. So off-roading should be really, really good on the Solterra. If we open up the boot here, now in here we have got 441 litres of boot space. If you do opt for the limited trim, that does extend to 452. We have got the Harman Kardon subwoofer in the side here, which probably robs a bit of boot space. If we open up this false floor here, there is a bit of space in there. Got a Type 2 charging cable in there, and also a 3-pin to Type 2 adapter, basically for charging on the go. We also do have this load cover here, which works fairly well and keeps things from your prying eyes. We can do that properly on camera for the first time. And there are some little hooks here which say max 4 kilos as well. Now also what we can do is fold the rear seats down, and that gives us even more space. So in the back here, if I lift this section up, we've got a relatively flat floor. I will put the exact measurements and the literage on screen now, but that does open up a really, really good practical amount of space. And one thing about the Solterra is it does have quite a wide opening and a completely flat loading lip, which is really, really good to see too. Should make getting suitcases and all your various bits and pieces in the back quite easy. Now, one of the big things you'll notice about the Solterra is the ride quality. Now, Subaru has long had a really good reputation for off-road prowess and off-road capability, and cars that are really rugged and just get the job done and they last for a very long time. With the Solterra, this is a collaboration between Toyota and Subaru, and I've got the impression that Subaru wouldn't have bothered to do it unless they could make the Solterra be really, really good off-road. And from stuff I've seen online and speaking to Subaru, this is as good as the Forester and the other vehicles that Subaru makes. Unfortunately, I haven't got anywhere I can test this out at any point during my week with this vehicle, so I can't really verify those claims, but there's lots of videos online which shows how capable the Solterra is off-road. Now the Solterra also has permanent four-wheel drive, and we actually have two electric motors. So there's one on the front which is 80 kilowatt, and we also have another 80 kilowatt unit on the rear axle as well. And in terms of brake horsepower, we have 215 brake horsepower or 218 PS. 0 to 60 is done in 6.9 seconds, and we have a top speed of 100 miles per hour, which is more than enough for this type of vehicle. So there's actually two different trim levels to choose from on the Solterra. There's this one, which is a top spec Tourer model, and there's also the cheaper version as well. Both models are pretty much the same, both have four-wheel drive, but weirdly, the top spec version has 257 miles of range, and the base trim has 289. Now, on a full charge, that's what you should get. At the moment, when I charged this car to 100 last night, it was showing 240, which is within spec really. Now, what's also really strange is that even though the Solterra has a heat pump, as soon as you activate any of the climate control systems, the range drops off pretty dramatically, almost like the car hasn't got a heat pump. It's really, really bizarre. Now also, what the Solterra lacks in interior plushness, it more than makes up for it in the plushness of the ride. I've driven this over some roads today that I take most of the cars I get to review on, and this has got to be the best one it's handled. There's a car park I used to film some of my reviews sometimes, and the little bit of road that you get to get into that car park is really awful, and this, it doesn't feel like it's bothered by any of it. You're not jiggled around, nothing like makes a noise, and it just handles it really, really well. It's quite impressive. I think the ride and the softness of the suspension have been quite a big priority for when Subaru co-developed this car with Toyota. It really, really does show when you get behind the wheel and drive it on some of the pretty bad roads we have in the UK, that it really is geared up for handling some of the bad roads, but primarily off-roading anyway. But once you take this on the UK roads, it's almost like the potholes don't exist. Now, we do also have one pedal driving and adjustable regen, which is really good to see. And those are activated from some little buttons down here. So auto hold, unfortunately, turns itself off every time you get in and out the vehicle, or turn the system on and off. And then your one pedal driving is called S pedal, and that's enableable from there. If you don't want S pedal turned on, there are some paddles to adjust the regen as well. So you can click that one, just like a Kia or a Hyundai, and that increases your regen, and that decreases your regen, or you can click the one pedal mode just there, and it's pretty standard like any other EV. So what do I think of the Subaru Solterra for 2025? Well, overall, it's actually a really decent car. It's got a lot of potential off-road. It handles a lot of the bad roads in the UK really, really well. And even on the motorway, it's surprisingly quite comfortable and quite compliant. It's actually quite a nice tourer vehicle, really. The only few little problems with it are maybe one, some of the materials inside feel a little bit plasticky, but it's definitely going to be quite rugged and last a long time. And also the price. This one's just around £56,000, and there are far nicer vehicles for an interior perspective for the same kind of money, but that isn't really what the Solterra is about. What the Solterra is about is off-road capability, and this vehicle is not lacking in any regard. It's just as capable as the Forester off-road, and that's a really, really good thing for an electric vehicle. Now, potentially the other issue comes down to the range and charging. The range is decent, if not groundbreaking, and the same goes for the charging speed too. Charging speed is 150 kilowatt, and it's relatively competitive, but it's not quite as good as some of its rivals. However, I'd love to know what you think about this Solterra in the comments down below. My name's Alex, please subscribe to Interface Cars, and I'll see you again in the next video.